Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Botany Beginners, Grasses for the Masses. This is lecture 2, and I am your instructor, Laura Jackson. I'm the director of the Tallgrass Prairie Center at the University of Northern Iowa and a biology professor there as well. It's wonderful to see. We've got 63, 64 participants right now. And a few more entering the waiting room as we get going here. We'll wait another minute or so before we launch into everything, but so just sit tight a bit and we'll be starting very shortly. Still having a few more people enter. I'll unmute. Stop share. Escape. Screen share. All right, everybody. I think we're ready to start. Okay. Well, once again, if you're just entering, welcome to the second of 7 lectures in our Botany Beginners Grasses for the Masses series. And this is, it's time to start. This is our team, part of our team. We've got Ann Phillips, Andy Olson, and I'm just going to turn the screen and have them wave hello. There's Ann and Andy and Price there in the very corner. All right, everybody, the team is here. It's like the NASA team for a moon launch. And you can post questions or comments at any time in the chat box. It's open and everyone should have access to it today. If there are any technical disasters, feel free to call Andy Olson and we'll see if there's anything we can do about it. Ann will send everyone a link to the recorded video, the preliminary version, before it is closed captioned. And then once we get it closed captioned, then it will be available on our website and more generally to anyone who wants it. So we think we have that figured out now. The first lecture, we were sort of figuring things out. If you haven't already done so, please do take our survey. It's very short and it just asks you questions like, where are you from? And are you affiliated with an organization? Are you a landowner or a prairie enthusiast or maybe a conservation professional? It just helps us to know about our audience. A little bit, about 30 of you that have filled it out are from Iowa, and the rest mainly from the upper Midwest, but we do have someone who's from India and another from California. So it's a very, very wide group, and maybe about 2/3 prairie enthusiasts and a little bit less than 1/3 landowners and some conservation professionals. So you're all welcome. This is a beginner course, and hope we can make this useful for everybody. There's 2 ways to participate in the course with the homework assignments and other things. One way is through the Google group that we mentioned last week, and that's called Botany Beginners TPC. And I mistakenly called it a listserv, and that is all my fault. I forgot that I just don't know anything about Google Groups, but I got caught up and learned about it yesterday morning, and it's pretty easy. But we also have a Botany Beginners Facebook group, which you are welcome to join. You just search for Botany Beginners on Facebook, and then ask to be, there's a step there where we let you into the group, and you can see our announcements. You can share your pictures of the grasses you're trying to identify, and any other homework assignments. You can share that on Facebook as well as on Google Groups. We will share handouts and links to resources through both media, and make sure that it's available either way. Some people prefer Google Groups, some Facebook, and so why not use both? So feel free to use either that works best for you. And if you are still trying to figure out the Google Groups thing, I will stay after class here, and I have a few extra slides like this one, and I'll try to explain how it works. But one thing I was happy to know is that you can control whether or not you receive emails directly to your inbox. You can turn that off, and you can still go to My Groups and Google Groups and just look at the conversations and post and see other people's posts and respond to them without ever having anything come to your inbox. So if that's an issue, we can fix that. Okay, so just a quick review, the goals for the course: learn some of the most common grasses in the upper Midwest, use seasonal and habitat cues to narrow down your choices. We're focusing exclusively on open, sunny habitats, and the soils are from wet to dry, but probably not the greatest extremes. We're looking at plants that grow as weeds everywhere, in roadsides, in conservation plantings, and in prairie remnants. So basically, most of the grasses that you would encounter. And we're just doing grasses, not sedges and rushes, because grasses are hard enough. We hope you'll connect with other botanists and be able to create your own personal list of grasses that you can identify with more confidence. And so that's something that you can take away from this course and say, I know how to ID these plants. And we'll also help you with some of the botanical terms and field guides that will help you in your own to learn the grasses that you want to learn. The course outline and dates are as follows. We are here on cool season grasses, and July 1st, we'll look at conservation plantings and roadsides. And July 8th, we'll look at cool season grasses that are unique to prairie remnants. And that's going to be by Dr. Justin Meissen, who's a research and restoration coordinator here at the Tallgrass Prairie Center. Then there's a gap, because a lot of things aren't blooming at this time, or it's confusing to determine whether they're cool season or warm season grasses. So there's a midsummer break, and then starting August 19th, we have 3 more weekly sessions on common and aggressive warm season grasses that are found in conservation plantings and roadsides, and then finally, warm season grasses that are virtually unique to prairie remnants. So
it should be September 2nd, the last.
Oh, do I have that wrong? I do. That says 7/8. Yeah, it should be September 2nd. Thank you. And yes, that last date is wrong. Sorry about that. I'll get that fixed. So for those of you who turned in homework, I enjoyed looking at it so far. There are many really fantastic identifications. And from what I could see, we're off to a good start. So if you submitted some pictures with your tentative ID, fantastic. That was really fun to look through those. And I was frankly surprised at how accurate you were. I wasn't expecting you to do as well as you did on the very first day. Large photo file size could be an issue. You might want to check the settings on your camera or your phone to make sure that you're taking a photo that will fit. 2 megabytes is plenty. If you're taking a picture that is 15 megabytes, and you could blow that up to, you could blow that up to a 3 by 5 foot poster and it would still be sharp. You don't need that much resolution. So one thing you can do with the homework is to work on getting your photos so that they're better at showing the key features and getting them in focus, and also getting some kind of a background that where you can see the thing that is you're trying to take a picture of. And descriptions in the book can help you zero in on the most important features that you want to make sure you get in that photo. So, but the photos seem to be working pretty well. So last time, here's what we covered. Is this a grass and what all grasses have in common? Some basic grass anatomy, by no means all about grass anatomy, but some of the basic stuff. A strategy for the grass ID in the upper Midwest in full sun habitats. And that's sort of the structure of the course. And to just two plants, Bromus inermis or smooth brome and Hordeum jubatum or foxtail barley, which are shown here in the two photos. And then we gave you the homework assignment. So today we're going to focus in on cool season species that are everywhere, very common, and quite often aggressive. And so this is your most common plant that you're going to encounter in many environments in the upper Midwest. And those plants can be found all over the place. They can also be found in places where prairie was planted or pasture was planted on purpose, because they're very successful weeds many times. And unfortunately, we'll find these in virtually all prairie remnants, because those prairie remnants can be invaded by many of these species. So it's important to know these plants for management purposes. Today, plants of the day, how to use the brown and Elliman key. We're going to use reed canary grass as the species that we'll use to learn how to use the key. And then we'll show you how to use it in other ways as well. And then a little bit of ideas for things you can do to practice in between classes to get better at this. So if you remember, we had a sheet with 6 cells in it, cool season and warm season. And then the top cell was everywhere and aggressive. The next was planted, like in conservation plantings or roadsides. And the last was prairie remnants. And each of these cells gets more and more exclusive. So this list is the species that were in that top left-hand cell. And last time we looked at Bromus inermis and Hordeum jubatum. The ones that I've highlighted today, quackgrass, perennial ryegrass, reed canary grass, giant reed, and Kentucky bluegrass, will be our plants of the day. So those are the ones we'll focus on identifying. Some of these, I'm just going to show you some pictures, and we can talk about the characteristics and how you can generally easily distinguish those. And these are the easy ones that don't take keying out. You don't really need to key out. Here's one that is a very serious invasive, especially as you go east, but it's occurring in roadside ditches and wetlands. Here it's a European reed or giant reed, Phragmites australis. It gets to be 15 feet high. It's got a very large plume of flowers on the top, and that's sort of a triangular shape. It's very distinctive. This is a very, very tall grass. It basically is rivaling corn in terms of its height. And it tends to form these very tight monocultures, which, as you can imagine, can squeeze out native species. So this one is pretty much unmistakable simply for its height, but you can also look at that plume of inflorescence there as a guide. A second plant of the day is Kentucky bluegrass. Now, I'm using this picture to make a point that Kentucky bluegrass is really everywhere, but it seems to hide in plain sight. Can anybody see, notice any of the Kentucky bluegrass inflorescences in this photo? I'm going to use my pen here to point a few out. Kentucky bluegrass is really everywhere, and it's really right in the middle of everything that you see. You just can't see it because the colors, the bright colors and the flowers hide it from you. I think human beings are somehow, we're just tied into that. Here's another one down here. So Kentucky bluegrass is very common in our yards. It's also found really all over the place. It gets into prairies and so forth. It kind of shape shifts on you. When it is young and it's just coming out of the leaf sheath, all of the flower scales are tightly pressed together and the branches are all folded up vertically, kind of like a Christmas tree that's been bound up in order to be transported. And then you clip that twine and the branches kind of fall out, and then you get the fullness of the Christmas tree. And that's what Poa pratensis does over time as it matures. So you can see here on the right, going from the least mature to the most, and also gets taller often. And then finally, the weird little plant trick that will nail it every time, most of the time, whether you have an inflorescence or not, is that Kentucky bluegrass has a keel-shaped leaf tip. So it looks like the prow of a boat. And you can, in most cases, you can look at that and you can be sure that it's at least in the genus Poa. It could also, if you're in a remnant prairie, it could also be a manna grass. But in most places, it's going to be Poa, and very often it's going to be Kentucky bluegrass. So that's a nice, very easy way to take a quick look and say, yep, that's it. Just make sure you're finding a grass leaf that hasn't been cut off by the mower blade. You need a full leaf, so make sure it's a complete leaf. I'm going to go back to my arrow here for my laser printer. Laser pointer. There we go. All right. So another plant of the day is Bromus japonicus, Japanese brome. It's also similar to Bromus tectorum, or cheatgrass. And these annual bromes are very similar to the smooth brome that we saw last time in terms of how the spikelets look, how the florets look, but these are annual plants. And so some of the things that are different about annuals and perennials is you won't see any underground rhizomes or much underground material at all. Almost all of it is down, all of the underground material is a very small amount of roots. So these two, and this annual brome is really common right now, and you're starting to see those seed heads mature and kind of get brown. It's just very, it's very, very common anywhere there's soil disturbance, and the long sort of very, very graceful, very long branches on these flowers, on these inflorescences, should be a good clue. It doesn't have the little M imprint like the Bromus inermis does, so you can't look for that. You have to just look for this annual habit and these long sort of bristly, somewhat bristly spikelets. Finally, two more, quackgrass and perennial ryegrass. Both of these could be in your yard. Both are blooming now, or bloomed very recently. Quackgrass on the left is Elymus repens, and it is a devastating weed. It is an incredibly aggressive perennial weed that will invade your garden. It will invade prairies, and it can be a problem. It can be a problem. Anywhere you have a perennial crop or something that you're using year after year, like asparagus or rhubarb, things like that, it can really be a problem. And this is showing it when it's blooming. It is an inflorescence is in the form of a spike. So unlike that bromus that you just saw, there's no inflorescence branches. Every flower cluster or spikelet, each of these is a spikelet. You can see my red laser pointer here. This is a spikelet consisting of several florets. Each of these is attached directly to the stem, or technically the rachis. So this whole structure here is known as a spike. And other grasses that are related that also have a spike are very important economically. Wheat, rye, barley, all of those are spike type inflorescences. And so they don't have that. There's no branching. And the same is true for Lolium perenne, which is a kind of a ryegrass. And it too has these spikelets here that are directly attached. And I wanted to put these two together because they're kind of fun. They demonstrate kind of the diversity in the grass world. If you can imagine that you've got just a post in front of you, and that represents the grass stem, the grass stem coming up. And then use your two hands as spikelets, right? So this is a flower cluster and this is a flower cluster. In quackgrass, they are arranged like this, going up this imaginary post. Can you see that? Can you see that in this picture? So the hands are the spikelets and they're oriented like this. In Lolium, they're oriented like this. So the hands are facing you instead of like this, they're like this. And you can see one of the effects of that is that the stem here of the inflorescence branch is kind of weaving back and forth, as you can see really well in this illustration. So those two things will be found in your yard. Quackgrass is rhizomatous and sod forming. So all the stems are going to come up kind of evenly, or you might see it kind of shooting across your garden like a marching, army. Whereas perennial ryegrass is a bunch grass. And so all of the vegetative tillers will come out from the ground at the same point in a very close bunch. And that bunch grass versus sod is a very nice character that's very easy to see. So that's another thing that you can look at. Okay, let's see. So before I get started, we're gonna dive in here to the key. But let me see first if there are any questions that have come up that I can clarify. And I will turn to my assistants here to see what they see. Not yet. Good, okay. So you all can recognize quackgrass, perennial ryegrass. I hope you'll go out there and find some for yourself and hold it in your hand. That's when you'll really begin to understand it. Okay, so let's use this key. I made you buy a textbook, so let's use it. And it really is a wonderful, really wonderful tool. If you don't have Brown and Elliman, we're really lucky. This is a 2020, so it's a recent edition. All the systematics is good. It covers the whole northeastern US, so that's nice. If you're farther west, it's going to be less and less useful. It'll probably still be fairly useful in northern Missouri, but as you get parts west, the grasses really change a lot. So let's look at this stand of reed canary grass. One of the reasons I wanted to show it is because you can see how it takes on that pinkish purple hue when it's in flower and full anthesis. The stigmas and stamens are exerted. It's nice and fluffy, and it really comes out. And that's kind of gets tricky because, as you'll see in a minute, it kind of shapeshifts. There it is in anthesis with all those stamens sticking out. Looking pretty. Doesn't look at anything like the evildoer that we know it is. So this is on page 23 of your key. So if you have the book, and I'm sorry, I should have said at the very beginning, we're going to use the book, so make sure it's nearby. If you don't have the book, it's okay, you can still follow along, and hopefully some of this will make sense. But we're going to use the book. And so on page 23, you see several choices. Now, I'm the one thing I'm not crazy about in this book is how they use the usually use indentation and some symbols and things so you know what your choices are. But basically you're looking at some hierarchical sets of choices and choices within choices. But we have 5 options here, and then that will take us to the next step. So we'll go through those options and we'll compare it to reed canary grass. I think I have. If your plant has a triangular stem, go to page 24. A triangular stem, you'll feel in your hands if you roll it between your fingers. And as we learned last time, sedges have edges. This is the sedge group. So we can toss that out because we know reed canary grass is not a sedge. If your plant has a round stem with no branches in the inflorescence, in other words, a spike, go to page 25, and you can see all the different types of grass inflorescences and some oddball other things like this garlic that have no branches, that have a spike type of a category. This is a major category of grasses that does, like I said, include wheat and barley and rye, things like that. So here on the right is a picture of reed canary grass after it's finished flowering and the seeds are developing. So this is kind of the ripening stage. So I'll use this on the side here so we can compare it to our options. All right, so we've got 2 of the 5 options, 2 down, 3 to go. So here's 2 more. Option 3 is if your plant has a round stem and flower branches forking from one point at the top, go to page 26. This group includes a lot of the rushes like juncus and some of the sedges, plus a few big grasses have this type of inflorescence like big blue stem. But we don't have to worry about that yet. And then option 4 is if your plant has a round stem, which ours does, and flowers coming out of one point on the side of the stem, go to page 126 through 128. Well, clearly that's not the case. So we can quickly eliminate those 2 options. Here we are at option 5. This one better work because it's our last option. If your plant has a round or 2-sided stem, meaning it could be flattened, could be somewhat flattened, with flower branches arranged vertically along the stem, go to page 27. And this idea of the flower branches arranged vertically along the stem is a panicle. That's the technical term for it. I think it's just easier to learn the word panicle than it is to say flower branches arranged vertically along the stem. This is a major category of grasses. A lot of species of grasses are in this option 5. So there's our reed canary grass again. Now, you might look at that and say, now, wait a minute. That doesn't look like it's got a lot of branches arranged vertically along the stem. But if you remember when it was in full flower and popped out like that, you could see those branches along the stem. And that's what really matters, is where those branches are. So if we choose number 5, which we do, then it directs us to go to page 27. Now this is the same as your key. It's just, we've just modified it a little bit to make it a little clearer, and I'll share a little bit more about that with you later. But plants with a round stem, sorry, page 27. So go to your page 27, about in the middle of the page, you'll see in bold that title, plants with round or 2-sided stem and flower branches arranged vertically. And then it gives you some options. Well, how many options do you get? You actually get 1, 2, 3, turn the page, 4 on page 28, there's another option. And then all the subcategories within that, then page 29, there's another option. So we've got another 5 options to go through to decide whether this is close. So flowers lined tightly along the branch, often on one side. No. Branches all along the stem, starting near the bottom, near the base of the plant, mixed in with the leaves. Clearly not. Plants are big, over 6 feet high, and the inflorescence is fuzzy and plume-like. No, doesn't look like that either. So we can scratch those three options off and keep moving. So that was on page 27. So we're going to go to the top of page 28. The whole inflorescence droops, or most of the branches do. The other option you have to, this is where it gets tough, and you got to really look carefully at how your book is organized. Everything after that sentence on the top of page 28 is in reference to the sub options within that. You have to go all the way to the top of page 29 for the other alternative, which is that most of the branches are upright and not drooping. Hopefully you see that. If you have your book, hopefully that's obvious. It takes a little bit of looking to see that those are your options. So if we look at reed canary grass, here's another habitat picture that's very characteristic. These are quite upright. They're not floppy and drooping. They're very quite erect and upright. So the very important choice, droopy or not droopy. We're going with not droopy. So at the beginning of this category on top of page 29, we have this warning. This is the hardest group, and the reason that people often think that all grasses look alike. Within this group, there are several subcategories. So this way be dragons. So I feel like let's just do the hardest thing first. And after we've done this hardest thing, you will feel confident that you can use this book for anything within the range of species that we're talking about. So we've got 4 choices here to examine, and we'll go through them one at a time, probably in excruciating detail here, but I figure let's go slow, figure it out together, and then I'll turn you loose. You'll be on your own, and you can try this out, and then we'll circle back and see how you did. So our choices, number 1, roundish and bunchy. Now, I love this book because it really tries hard not to use technical terms. There is a lot more technical terms than roundish and bunchy or droopy, but they're going for the direct stuff. So here's orchard grass, very common pasture grass, and then here's our reed canary grass. Would you say that reed canary grass is roundish and bunchy? I picked the very fluffiest flower picture I could give you, but remember that it also looks like this when it dries down. You'd never call that one roundish and bunchy. So we're going to reject that choice for now. You can always come back later, right? You can always come back later and say, I said it wrong, I did it wrong, and go back through a different part of the key. The second choice is it sparse and delicate and naked for much of its length? Sparse and delicate. So this is a picture of Aragrostis, which is sparse and delicate, and naked along most of its length means that these inflorescence branches here that I'm showing with my laser pointer have very few spikelets on them. It's mostly branch with very little flower. So it gives this very airy and very light perspective. A lot of these species would break off and then they act as a tumbleweed. So they just sort of be floating across the grassland, kind of tumbling and dropping seeds as they go. So clearly this is a much more robust, chunky kind of a grass. So we're going to reject that second choice and go on to this choice. In flower, is the inflorescence straight and narrow with branches that hug the stem? Straight and narrow with branches that hug the stem. What do you think? Well, again, if you're working with a plant that's in the middle of anthesis, those branches don't hug the stem. Think about it. We need to get that, if you're the plant, you need to get that pollen dispersed in the wind, and those stigmas need to get some pollen on them from another plant. So there's a mechanism in there for these spikelets to open up and really disperse this pollen effectively. If they were all closed up, they wouldn't do a very good job of that. But once they're dried down, they take on this different role. Now, the branches are a little hard to see because they're so close to the stem, but if you start to pull it apart, as I did here, you can see here's a branch and here's a branch and here's a branch, and they all were pulled off of this central stem. So when it's ripening, it is narrow and hugging the stem. But let's look at the last option anyway, because it's always good to be thorough, see if we find anything better than that. The last option is in flower, the inflorescence is not straight and narrow, but forms a pyramid, diamond, or oval in silhouette. Well, clearly no, it does not. You cannot call that a pyramid, diamond, or oval. So we've covered all 4 choices. The best choice seems to be the one just before this, that the inflorescence is straight and narrow and the branches hug the stem. This is what it looks like if you were to diagram it. I didn't put all of the options in here for each of the choices, but just for this first one, the round or two-sided stem that's not droopy and that is straight and narrow. But then you can follow these choices to other things. So we get to this point and then we get a list. We get a list of all the genera that are in this book, in this guidebook. And remember, it can't cover every single species that would exist in the Northeast US, but the big ones, the most important ones. Now, so it gives you this list, and then you would need to go through and see which ones are possible. Now, we have put a red line over the ones that are either in the woods, they're in deep shade, or they're in a salt marsh, and so they wouldn't exist in the upper Midwest. And then that leaves you with a much shorter list, which is nice, right? Because then you don't have to look through all of those species, only the ones that are possible. Now, so we were starting to think about this as we were preparing for this class, Justin Meissen and myself and Price Johnson, and trying to think about, well, how can we put this together and make it even simpler for a beginning botanist? And so what we did was basically tailor that key to our class. And Price did this for us. And so I'm going to turn the camera towards her and she's going to kind of explain how she did it.
Hello, everyone. Like she said, my name's Price Johnson. I'm a recent UNI graduate, and now I'm helping out with the botany training, including this class. So the idea behind this new modified key is that it includes all of the species that are on the grid list, that handout that you got before. So they have the ones that are found everywhere, the ones that are in plantings, and those in remnant prairies. So we went through the work of crossing everything off of the list in the book so that you don't have to. Another thing we did was we put in parentheses next to the species, we put a C or a W. The C is for cool season, which would be things that are flowering right now, things that we're talking about in this class. And the W is for warm season, which we'll be talking about later in August and September. So hopefully that will help you to know which ones to look for. The ones that have flowers are the ones with C's. As far as the images, they're the exact same ones from the book. Hopefully they'll be easy to see on there. And then another thing we did to hopefully help you was put bullet points, because like we were saying earlier, it's a little confusing with the indentations and the formatting they used. So hopefully you can follow along with the bullet points. The different bullet point shapes will show you the certain options. So for example, within the square, there is the closed circle and the open circles. And so there's 2 closed circle options, and underneath those are the options within that. So yeah, if you practice with this, hopefully that will help you understand the book a little better.
Yeah, great. Thank you,
Yes.
Price. Really appreciate it. I think this will really be a help, but we do, this is still the Brown and Elliman key. We would never say that we've made a new key. This is the Brown and Elliman key. All we've really done is tailor it and just format it a little bit for our purposes here. And So print it out. I sent it out in the Google Groups. We'll also make a link for you in an email or on the Botany Beginners Facebook page when we can figure that out. And you can just print it out. It'll be probably about 3 pages, and just bring it along in the field with you along with the book, because you're still going to want the book with all the pictures and descriptions and all that. But tell us how you like it. Tell us how it works for you. We hope it'll be valuable. Finally, just read Canary Grass. So aggressive. If you have ever dealt with it, you know that it just takes over the world. And in winter, it's good to know what it looks like in winter, kind of that blonde look with sort of a characteristic attitude of the leaves, the way they hang. So you kind of get used to that idea. And then we'll be talking more about the ligule and the collar on certain kinds of grasses next time. But this has an extremely large membranous ligule here at where the leaf sheath meets the blade. And so that's also diagnostic, as well as a very wide leaf in general. Okay, time for a little humor and a botany break, and to see how we're doing. If you've stayed with me, I applaud you. This is rough going. This is why people don't learn the grasses, is because they're hard and tedious sometimes. So tell me how you're doing and what I can try to clarify.
A nice thank you from a student
Oh, that's very
for
nice.
all the work you've done for making this
Okay.
accessible to beginners.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's no one would ever characterize botany as riveting. It is actually, it is, but it only once you get into it. And it's hard to get into it until you're maybe surrounded by other botanists who have found a rare orchid or a rare plant of some kind, and they're busy doing backflips. They're so excited about it. And then you kind of catch the bug, and your life has changed forever after that. Okay, any other things to address? All right, well, we'll keep going here. We got about 15 minutes. That should be plenty of time. This is going to be the show and tell portion of the lecture. I'm going to show you how to use a hand lens properly. I'm going to turn off the share screen here for a moment and show, let's see, I have to do this first. Pointer options, arrow, stop share. Okay, now you should be able to see me. Yes, can you see me? Okay, is it a small square or a big square?
I spotlighted you, so you should be a big.
Okay, good way. All right, so here's the hand lens. This is a pretty good one, but you can buy them for $8 or $9. It doesn't have to be super fancy. You can spend some money on it. It's just good optics. 10x is plenty. That's about all you can handle. Now, people make the mistake of they're trying to look like this, and they'll move the plant in and out, and then they'll move this in and out, and it just doesn't work. But what you want to do is kind of brace the lens up against your eye socket. And you'll notice I had to take my glasses off. You can leave them on, but then you scratch your glasses. And then what you do is you just bring the specimen up until it pops into focus. There we go. Now I can see it in focus. And I can see lovely little bristles here, all kinds of fun things. So you do need this for grasses at some point. And if you just practice a little bit, put this up to your eye, then bring it in, you're going to be more successful, and you're going to see what you need to see. You can also just put your specimen on a flat surface. But if you do that, you're going to come down so far that you block your light. You can't see it very well. If you have a place to work where you've got some good natural light, or you've got a little desk lamp, that can be helpful too. But most of this at this level that we're talking about, beginning level, you should be able to do most of these things in the field without bringing it in and having the whole 9 yards. So there is how you do that. I'm going to get back into my PowerPoint here, share my screen again, find my glasses. Okay. All right. By the way, another cool feature of smooth brome is that the sheath is not overlapping. It's actually like welded together, which is kind of unusual. Okay, so keys are fallible, and plants either the person who wrote the key was fallible, or plants don't always follow the rules. And every key is a bunch of compromises and judgment calls. So as you're going through this key, if you run into something that's a little inconsistent, you think, well, it must be me. I must not understand this. But realize that you probably are observing it quite competently. And the main issue is that the key has some judgment calls that you just called it a little differently. And all you need to do is go back up the key, find where you might have, maybe it was a judgment call that you weren't really sure about. Let's take it with a grain of salt and go the other direction and see if that will help you get there. So here's an example of a little glitch that I found in the key, and that had to do with actually smooth brome. With smooth brome, it's also a panicle here. Let's see, I'll go back to my laser pointer. When you start at the very beginning, those 5 choices, it is a panicle. It is not droopy, especially when it's flowering. And then it has this kind of a pyramid shape to it when it's flowering, or maybe ovalish. And then you get to the point where you're asked, do the flower scales have bristles at the tip or no bristles at the tip? And the correct answer, if you want to get to Bromus inermis, is that it has no bristles. But I beg to differ. I can find bristles on there. Here's Price out in the field with the brome. That was on June 10th. If you go through the key, now this is the original book key, but it would be the same in the tailored key that we created. It says, here's the inflorescence, not straight and narrow, pyramid, diamond, or oval. Flower scales have bristles at the tip. And there's the list of possibilities. This Zizania, by the way, is wild rice. Here's one, flower scales have no bristles, and you've got this long list that includes Bromus, and you look on page 196, Bromus inermis. But this is my picture of Bromus inermis, and I found a bristle. So what's the deal? Well, if you actually go to the description of Bromus inermis here in the book, in fact, they mention bristles. They're very small bristles. So I don't think that this was just an oversight. This is a very well done book. It says very short bristle at end of flower scale, unlike most other species of Bromus, which have long bristles. So they're making a judgment call to say, okay, yeah, there's a bristle, but it's so tiny it hardly counts as a bristle, especially among this group of Bromus. And they're basically second guessing you. So in some ways you can look too carefully sometimes. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But at any rate, just realize these things are made by humans. Plants are variable. There's a lot of second guessing about judgment and how you're going to use your judgment, how they're going to use their judgment, and so forth. So you just kind of play it by ear a little bit and fool around with it, and look at different pictures, and generally you can still get to your objective. So that covers the goals that I had for you today. 5 plants of the day. learning how to use a key, which is kind of an ordeal, and hopefully you got through it without too much psychological damage. How to use a hand lens, the point that keys are not infallible. And I threw in there this idea of these two major categories of grasses, the ones that have a spike type of an inflorescence with no branches, and the types that have branches, the panicle types.
We do have a couple questions.
Okay, couple
If
questions.
this
Yes,
would be a good time for them.
great.
Uh,
Fire away.
Crystal is from Nebraska and she wants to know if she should purchase the Brown Element textbook or there would be a better one for her to use.
Yeah. How far into Nebraska are you, Crystal? Or how far west?
Omaha.
Omaha. Okay. I think probably Brown and Element would still be valuable to have as part of your library. It's not going to be, it's not going to be the be all and the end all. But Eastern Nebraska kind of is still, you've got a thin, tall grass prairie, edge of the tall grass prairie there, where a lot of this will still be valuable. But I should try to look up what some other keys or other guides would be for your region. And I have not done that. So I'll ask around and see what people like. And maybe there's somebody else in this group from Nebraska or South Dakota that's already got a suggestion for Crystal. Yeah.
Alice would like to know if there's a native canary grass. She says, I remember planting canary grass 60 years ago as a good conservation tool. Or was it always so aggressive and that was seen as beneficial?
Yes. All right. And I'm not sure, do I need to repeat the question or do you think everybody heard it? Will the microphone pick it up?
You might summarize it. Is
Okay.
there a native?
Yeah, Alice wants to know about, is there a native reed canary grass? And that it was planted for conservation back 60 years ago. And yes, it was, and it still is. You can still buy it. There, it can be used for forage production, and people still plant it. There is a controversy over whether it ever was. Some people say that there was a native version and then there was a Eurasian version, and the Eurasian version has sort of taken over, and that's the one that's become aggressive. So, the Native American reed canary grass is supposedly blameless. But then, if there's mixture and if they're the same species, just two varieties, and they interbreed, then the European version can then interbreed with the American, and who knows what is what now, right? It's essentially one species. There may be some plant systematists who can do DNA, sequencing, who could tell you the difference. But I've never seen anything that is a reliable way to say this is safe to plant and this is not. I just haven't seen that. And, maybe that will come someday, but it's one of these things that, at least as far as I know, is still up in the air. But if you've read something that's more recent, I would love to see it and know what the most current thought is on that. That's a great question. Thank you. I'm sorry that doesn't come to a very satisfying answer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those are great questions. So here's the homework. You knew this was coming. You can post this to the Facebook group or to the Google group. And it's basically what we did today. Go out there and collect a grass that's in flower, that's already on your personal plant list that you are now keeping. So pick one that you already know and use the key and to confirm the identification, and don't skip any steps. Go straight through all the steps to see if you are using the key properly. And if you get stuck into the wrong place, go back through your choices and figure out where you went wrong and what that misinterpretation or subjective decision was that got you in the wrong direction. So that's the assignment. The more times you do that, the better you'll get at this key so that you can use it confidently when you do go to species that you don't know. And, you know, these lists that we've given you that are kind of abridged and sort of kind of take out a lot of the options. If you're wandering around in a very interesting place that's unique, you may run into grasses that aren't on our abridged list. And you know, you do need that key, and you will need to use the key rather than just go with our list, because there's a lot of variety out there. So either in the Google group or in the Facebook group, post a good photo, and your experience keying it out. How did it go for you? So that's the assignment. And I hope you'll all read one another's contributions to find out how their experience went. That's the whole point of this in an online forum. This is the way you guys can learn from one another. And since there's no credit or grades in this course, that I'm being silly, but extra credit / brownie points, try out the key on an unknown species and see how that goes. So yeah, so that's the assignment. I see there's maybe a few more things in chat. Are there any other questions? And
A
just,
little bit of discussion about reed canary grass. That might be interesting for you to look at later. on.
yeah, I'd love to. Maybe you might have to take a screen grab of that chat.
You might mention that the Facebook group is Botany Beginners Exploring Iowa's Native Plants.
Aha,
Already. They
yeah.
do have to approve them, so we will do that as quickly as possible.
Yes, Botany Beginners Exploring Iowa's Native Plants is the Facebook group, and you'll need to request to be let in, and then we'll do that quickly. So next week, Thursday, July 1, we're going to focus on grasses that are planted in roadsides and conservation plantings like CRP, prairie restorations, only native the cool season grasses, both native and non-native, that are found in roadsides and CRP plantings. There are a lot of pasture grasses that could be included in this group, things like orchard grass, timothy, the fescues, but it's a very big and a very confusing category. I don't know how many I will include. There's 2 native cool season grasses that are commonly planted, both Canada and Virginia wild rye. We'll go over those. And there are a few that are less commonly planted that we'll probably wait and do in the prairie remnant section on July 8th. But some of you have been asking about identifying plants from vegetative characteristics. And so I thought next week I'd share the vegetative characteristics for 5 warm season grasses that are not flowering right now, and how you can tell them apart from one another and identify them from their leaf blades, stems, ligules, and collars. So we'll do a little bit of vegetative grass ID next week with the big commonly planted warm season grasses. And then if we have time, a couple of annual weed seedlings that are starting to germinate now in the hot summer as the soils warm up, that are going to be a problem for you later this summer. And that's if we have time. So that's the goal for next week.
We do have
yeah,
2 more questions.
2 more
if we have
questions.
time.
Great, of course, yes.
After class, will the recording be posted?
When after class will the recording be posted? I don't know. Do you know how long it takes to do that?
Yeah. you get the link.
Okay, it should be tonight.
Should be tonight.
And we'll be
Okay,
here for a couple hours, so it should be tonight.
yeah.
The other question is, Crystal's looking for the name of the Facebook group again, if you could repeat that.
Yes.
And also looking for the worksheet you made.
Aha, okay, thanks. Yeah, good. So the Facebook group is called Botany Beginners, Exploring Iowa's Native Plants. So if you just type in Botany Beginners, you'll find it. There are many botany Facebook groups, and so it's an active area. But if you say Botany Beginners in Iowa, you'll certainly get it. And then I've posted the handout that Price made for us on the Google group. I have not I tried to post it on Botany Beginners. I couldn't figure out how to do it because it's a PDF, but we'll get that figured out and get it onto the Botany Beginners as well as a link. And eventually we'll also get it on the Tallgrass Prairie Center website, and that page that's for this class, and it'll be on there along with that first sheet that we gave you. We have to, I keep thinking of, don't think of a good name for that sheet. I just keep calling it the grid or the sheet. So we have the species, what did we,
Reference guide. or-
species reference guide?
Yeah, cross species reference guide.
Yeah, version 1.1. We've already made one edit to it. So, so we'll get that updated. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for those questions. Did that help? Yeah. Okay.
We do have a student who would like you to walk through accessing the Google group. So-
All right. I will be happy to do so. Let me see if this is my last slide. I've got the acknowledgements and then I've got stuff on Google Groups. So yes, we are here at the end of the official part of the class. And so you are dismissed. Thank you for your attention, and we'll hopefully see you next week. Those of you who are staying after class, we'll wait a minute or two for people to leave and then get started here. Maybe could you pass me that water bottle? One of them, doesn't matter which. Get a little bit of a drink of water here. Okay, well, might as well get started for those of you who are interested. Google Groups is, you have to have a Google account, first of all. That doesn't mean you have to have an email, but you have to have a Google account. And the little Google's got all these different little apps, right? It's got Gmail, it's got Google Maps, it's got Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Calendar, and Google Contacts. And of course, they want to suck you in and basically rule your entire world. And but here is the little symbol that'll be towards the top right hand of any Google account that you're looking for. And that, if you click on that symbol, you'll get this grid of different apps. And this is just a small piece of it. This is just a few of them. And one of them looks like this, and it's called Google Groups. So if you click on Google Groups, it comes up with a screen, and this is the top left-hand part of that screen. You can create a new group. You can go to different groups that you belong to. And this is why I called it a listserv, because my experience is at the university, there's all these different, a list of administrators that I'm on, and a list of biology faculty that I'm on. And they just, then they send you mass emails, and that's how you can get a hold of them. So you can click on My Groups and you will find Botany Beginners. TPC is one of those groups if you have joined it. And then if you click on that, I think, yeah, let's see if I have that somewhere else. I guess I don't, but you'll be looking at a list, possibly a list of one, if this is your only group you belong to, and you'll click on that thing that says Botany Beginners, and it gives you some options here. You can look at the different conversations. I don't think it'll say it approved and pending because you're not an administrator of this group, and I am. And then people, that's all part of administering a group. So, but you have down here, my membership settings and group settings. So I think my membership settings might be helpful. My membership settings is where you can set up how you want the email to go. Do you want to, you get your display name here, the email that's used for membership. I don't think it needs to be a Gmail account. And then the subscription, does it need to be each email? No, you can set it so you never see an email in your inbox. And you can unclick this box down here too, subscribe me to email updates when I post to a conversation. You can opt out of all of that. Then if you want to see what's going on in the class, or if you want to post something, you can click on this conversation, and then you'll see this list of people that have posted. So, you know, Anne will post something tonight that says, post your week 2 grass photos and identifications here. Then you can add your photos and IDs to everybody else's. And that's nice because it kind of clusters it all for that week in one conversation. So ideally we would have, you know, 100 different posts for this particular conversation. Some people were starting their own, which was okay, it's fine, but it just makes it kind of disorganized. So basically you'd click on that. And then after that, let's see, I think that should have come earlier. So you'd click on that and it just looks like an email. You hit reply to the original post up here in the right-hand corner. You're just going to hit that reply and everybody's going to see it. Everybody on this list who wants to can read what you're saying. So, you know, keep it clean. Hit reply to the original post, share your homework. You can read and respond to other student posts. Maybe they say, hey, I've got this, I think it's such and such, what do you think? Maybe you know, and you can help them out. To the best of my abilities, I will try to get through as many of these as I can, or I might engage Price to help me with it. We'll see how much time she's got, but and we'll try to let you know if we think that it's a good idea or not. If your photo is good enough to tell, which sometimes, you know, it might be hard to get all the information in one photo. So that's called posting to a conversation. And that's very similar to a listserv. And that's why I use that terminology, but that was wrong. Yeah, so that is my last slide. Now, let me just stop here and see what kind of questions you have and if I can clarify anything. I can also go off of my PowerPoint and actually go share my screen and go into Google Groups and show you live what's going on.
We don't have any specific questions, but you might want to point out if they have registered for the course in the last couple hours. I might not have had time to send them an invite.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you've just registered for the course, we haven't had time to send you the invite yet to join this Google group.
But we will tonight.
But we will tonight. Yeah. You know, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and then escape this, because maybe what I need to do is to show you. Nobody wants to see all of this, but I can show you my screen, what it looks like for me. All right, now you can see, did I do that? I'm screen sharing.
Looks like your Gmail is green.
You can see the Gmail, and then here's
Right.
that, and then I'm going to go to groups and I'm going to click on that. And then you can see how many groups I belong to. Most of them I never pay any attention to. Clear down here at the bottom is Botany Beginners, TPC. I click on that, and now I can see all your posts. And so here's your post, your week 1 grass photos and IDs. Boy, I've got a lot of grading to do, just like the rest of the semester. Let's see what people have posted here most recently. Aha, Janet has got Canada wild rye pictures and found in a 5-year-old CRP planting, and I can look at the picture. And yeah, that looks like a pretty good ID there, Janet. So that's how that works. Sometimes it's hard to follow things on somebody else's screen because they're moving their cursor around so fast, but that's my attempt anyway. So that's how you do that. I think that's about all I can provide at this point, unless there's any other specific questions.
There's one about, somebody had to re-register to get the link. You can mention, if you go back to that original email you get after registering, that should work for each webinar.
If you go back to the original email that you got with the link, that will work for each webinar. So it's the same exact link for each webinar.
Yep.
Yeah,
fine to
okay,
tell.
yeah.
And then Dries, you had a question. Sorry if you can't hear me. It's about the Google Groups. So you're still sharing, right?
Yes.
Click
I
on
am.
the dots again.
Okay.
For some people, you might have to scroll down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
manually probably moved it up. So just scroll
Yeah.
down a little bit and see if you see
Yeah,
it. Then.
there it is. And it's not always in the same spot.
Right.
That's annoying. Yeah. Go AmeriCorps. Andy Olson is been a full-time AmeriCorps here for almost a year, and he's headed on to greener pastures once he figures out where they are, and helped us with a lot of really amazing projects here at the center. So, okay. Well, with that, and again, either way you go, whether it's Facebook or Google Groups, either is fine. And I know some people here have to get to some other meetings, so we're going to go ahead and end our webinar, and we'll see you next week. So much fun doing this. Thanks for coming.